Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And you know, Bill, today I'm actually really excited to talk about this subject. We have quite a few good examples to discuss regarding how it's all about the eyeballs and marketing messaging in terms of what we're seeing a lot in our media and in our social media discourse.
Yeah, it's Tom, to make this as exciting as possible, because, most people in business know that in marketing, you gotta get eyeballs to look at your product or service. And in sales, you've got to get them to engage or consume the product. And in order for it to work, the function of business is really, how do I get somebody to buy my product or service? And if it's not enticing enough, there's another product or service that says me next. And you and I have both been to carnivals, and we've walked down past booth over booth over booth of, shall I get this stuffed animal? Or how about this stuffed animal, this stuffed animal? The answer is, the question really is that, do I really need another stuffed animal? And, but no, there is something about that stuffed animal, that one your brain is trying to pick the right stuffed animal. And is it by the cups, or is it by the shooting gallery, or is it by the basketball throw? Is it by the beanbag toss? We're trying to, engage, our experience of life. And a big part of the experience of life has to do with how our emotions are moved by things. And a big part of my practice in business and, helping people communicate better is, how can you get a message so that people listen to you? And if you're going to make it exciting, then you've got to figure out a way to do that, or otherwise you won't get eyeballs. And that's a big part of our discussion today, is how do you get the eyeballs? And when does a company step over the line, or when does an organization or individual step over that line and go like, well, you're getting eyeballs, but it's at the expense of a value. It's at the expense of a long-term business strategy. So good talk today. And I'm looking forward to, kind of mix it up a little bit here, because Facebook is having some problems. Certain media outlets are having some problems with stepping over the line and then stepping back, and then stepping over the line and stepping back. It's like, no, not really. We didn't mean to shut down that department. So we have some problems. So we definitely have some problems right now.
I think that Facebook is a real prime example right now of this. And it's certainly in the headlines because of the whistleblower, Frances Hagen, who's been on 60 Minutes and other things. And we have her video interview at the blog post at purchasingtruth.com. And I'll tell you, it's really quite shocking to learn that, according to her and all these documents that she's released, that Facebook was putting their profits ahead of really, safety of having safe conversations, ahead of the disinformation that people are trying to propagate. And really they said, well, the eyeballs of all this disinformation leading up to the election, after the election, certainly, are more important to their bottom line, to their profits, than making sure that we're, policing this disinformation.
Right. It's unsettling. There's a choice. You and I have talked about this before. Businesses make choices. It's sometimes better for the business to pay the fine rather than to clean up the toxic spill. It's better. It doesn't cost as much. It's less expensive for them to fix the pipe, ahead of time, and to pay the fine when the pipe breaks. It's unsettling. You figure that there would be that integrity, that ethics, that things. But Tom, you and I have let remodeling projects go, and then it comes around to bite us because the pipe breaks, or you and I've let things go regarding the car, and then the car breaks down. It costs twice as much. So wait a minute. The worst one though is we've made choices regarding our health choices and ignored certain health situations, and that has come back to cost more or be more painful and those kinds of things. So there's we as animals, we forget that we have a brain that is picking and choosing things that are not in our best interest. They just aren't for the long run. And that is going to be a big challenge over the next really kind of 30 years. I think the next 30 years are going to be really tough for us as human beings, because we've got to face things like, plastic in the ocean and the amount of pollutants that we throw around on the planet, and how are we going to process these things? And
we're seeing that on the California coast right now with another big oil spill due to pipeline. And not that this is our subject today, but I have a theory as to why that pipeline broke. They haven't figured it out yet, but there's so many container ships sitting off the West Coast, the Port of Los Angeles, waiting to be unloaded because of the whole shipping infrastructure problem. I think an anchor from one of those ships likely, caught the pipeline and broke it, but we'll see. They haven't actually identified it yet, but anyway, environmental problem. I just couldn't help but throw that in there. But what's really challenging about Facebook, Bill, is that more so than any other company, I think even more directly so than media outlets, although I think we can't let them off the hook, and we're going to come around to talk about them in this episode too. But for Facebook, the product that they are engaged in producing is engagement of people. It is eyeballs of people. If they don't have eyeballs of people on their platform, they don't make any money. And they have put fostering that engagement, good or bad, as what they need to do. And when you have
right.
When you allow misinformation and disinformation to be spread on your platform, it keeps more people's eyes engaged on the platform for longer, and you make more money.
Right. And there's been the overreach. I mean, there's been there's been the overreach when, that I am choosing to inflame because it is a part of my business revenue model. I'm choosing to do that. And because there is a certain group of people that want to buy this thing that I'm selling. There are people that are still smoking cigarettes, Tom.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't meet their need for health. So, there is a challenge here that, it is up to the consumer, up to the buyer to shut off the cash flow, because it doesn't, it's the company is saying it is not our responsibility what these other human animals do. And there isn't that level of accountability until it shows up on their doorstep. I mean, this
until you get hauled into Congress for a hearing or something, right?
Right. Right. And what has been the challenge, which is interesting to see how Congress is going to do this one, which is that the defiance piece, make me come in and be accountable, make me accountable for what I'm saying, in front of the Senate, make me accountable for this, instead of this speech I'm giving is going to give me way more eyeballs if it's inflammatory. And my voters are really not going to hold me accountable, because once I get in once I have a name recognition there's nothing to get me out of here. And all I got to do is just keep my numbers up to such an extent. And, people that are on my team are forgiving. It's like, they're forgiving. Oh, so I had this mistake and I had this mistake and I have this mistake. Well, I'm forgiving because it's my party. I'm still going to vote in that direction, even though this person did this and this and this and this. It's like, oh my gosh, you polluted this, you broke this ethics, you didn't do this, the integrity. And it's very, 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 very problematic and troublesome to watch what the brain does to, I am loyal to my team, so it's very, very hard.
Well, we're seeing that play out in our Congress and politics right now, but let's not get too distracted with that at the moment. But yeah,
different set of eyeballs, different set of eyeballs,
and maybe we'll have time to come back around to that. But what's interesting about this whistleblower, I even wondered, as a business owner, is it legal for her to take tens of thousands of documents from Facebook? I even wondered that. And apparently as a legal matter, because Facebook is a public company, the SEC is the regulating body there. It's apparently absolutely legal, because as a public company, Facebook is supposed to voluntarily disclose things. And if the whistleblower reveals they didn't properly disclose things, for the good of their investors, for the good of public awareness, then it's definitely going to be more of a problem for Facebook than it is for Frances Haugen. I'll tell you that. That's become clear. But it's very interesting that they had this civics integrity committee or project internally that she was a part of, hired in 2019. And I guess in the interest of not impacting a free and fair election, they did less at Facebook to, I should restate that. They did more at Facebook to try to reduce the amount of disinformation on their platform leading up to the election. But then once election day came in 2020, they flipped the switch.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all right, we're going to allow disinformation again. The election's over, no harm, no foul. And then we saw the consequences of that in terms of getting, so many people riled up to the point that they, execute an insurrection on our capital, on our government, and our process of the peaceful transfer of power.
The power of media, the power of messaging. I mean, if you're getting more money by getting people to look at you, it's very similar to you and I driving down the freeway. There's a car wreck with ambulances up ahead. Everyone is slowing down to look at the car wreck. And this style of, we need to create another car wreck today in order to get the eyeballs, to get everybody to look down our way, to look at the latest car wreck that we just made. It's who is going to make the next car wreck. It's not about driving safe on the freeway anymore, of media or the stream of media. There's no guardrails. There's no, and it's a mountain road, and it's a great example, Tom, of taking the guardrails off and just, hey, we're just going to open the stream of cars, and the cars are coming up this hill and they're driving. They're going like, what somebody said, what did somebody say? And everybody's trying to drive up this thing. It's like, the cars, or the bus is going to go off the road here. If we keep trying to, well, yeah, let's all go here. It's so, and the problem with the insurrection is that it's one thing to speak up about an injustice, but it's also to being inflamed with the limbic part of the brain running towards, that experience of going, I just got to see what this car wreck is. And I'm going to support what I believe that is true. And that's why I'm showing up here. And that's the thing that's really, really, really hard. And if once media or once identity finds something that works, then they're going to just keep doing it until, we're really tired of looking at the car wreck, or and it can damage the whole system too.
People can't help but look at the car wreck. That's why the car wreck's on the other side of the freeway. It's not even on your side. So there's nothing actually impeding the flow of traffic on your side.
There is not.
I'm from New England, and we used to call that rubbernecking. Because you sort of stretch your neck to look over at the other side. When I lived in the Midwest, they called it gawkers. I don't know what it is in California. I don't even think, because I don't commute out here. But anyway, it is, people can't help but look at it. And, I think Facebook knows this. And in fact, they know that if you see something that's not in alignment with your beliefs, and it's going to get you riled up, it's going to push your buttons. I mean, and by the same token, you see something that is in alignment with your beliefs, and it just seems outrageous about what the other side is doing, you're going to stay more engaged. And, oh, by the way, here's an ad for something. Wouldn't you like to buy it? And right. The more ads you see, the more ads people see, the more likely they are to buy something. Or even if they don't buy something, here's the thing, Facebook makes money because these ads, they get paid when they put the ad in front of your eyeballs.
Yep.
Whether you buy something or not. And they're $1 trillion company. I didn't realize that until this week when all this news about the whistleblower came out. A $1 trillion company. Ouch. So that shows you this is not just about it's really not about power in terms of Facebook. It's really about dollars and cents. It's about profits, and they're hooked on the drug of making that money.
Right.
And so that's without government regulation, this is probably not going to stop.
Very, very challenging to, get people to look away, from that car wreck. There is my eyeball is attracted to this. This is what I want to see. This is what I'm clicking. And the reason why I'm clicking this is because I feel better by doing the click. I feel better by having an engagement. And this engagement with me and this platform. And will Facebook take a hit? How much off of $1 trillion does taking a hit mean? Does it mean just losing $1 billion? Is that enough? And the answer is no.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does. In fact, so coincidentally, the day after the 60 Minutes interview aired with the whistleblower, Facebook had an outage across their entire network for about 6 hours. And Their stock went down 5 to 7% during that time, which is because of the outage, here's some scary honesty. Their stock went down because of the outage, not because of the news of the whistleblower. I actually saw a funny meme, Bill. I'll have to find it and put it in the blog post. It had a meme of Mark Zuckerberg basically saying, hey, you try to drag us into Congress, and you try to, give this whistleblower news again, and I'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to put everybody in Facebook timeout, basically saying that they shut it down is like a consequence, which I don't believe is true. I think that's just a funny meme.
Yeah, right, right. Exactly.
I'm gonna give everybody a timeout. It's hilarious. Well, anyway, Bill, let's pivot on the eyeballs to. I think Facebook is the 800-pound gorilla of social media for sure, but there's plenty of other news outlets where they're in the business of getting eyeballs as well.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. The mechanism inside the brain is, how do you get the brain to purchase something and to get things to engage? And there are 3 distinct steps in that messaging. So for those of you who are on the business side of this or the political side of this, it's like, how do you get a reward to show up? So even the car wreck has a reward to it. It has to do with, my need for safety is being met. That person's need for safety is not being met. My need for health is being met. That person's need for health is not being met. My need for financial security is being met. That person's need for financial security is not being met. This is the essential element of a drama. If I'm in TV, I want to make sure a drama takes place. There's not, it's the difference between how much money does a documentary makes versus how much money does Mission Impossible make, or James Bond. It has to do with the number of body count, how many people have died, or what is the trick, or what is the interest, because I have more tension in a drama. How do they all do all those things in 90 minutes is magical, jumping out of a plane, doing this, and in a 90-minute movie, that seems like that they have an entire life in a 90-minute movie. You see how funny this gets. Very similar. It's like, they're not doing all that stuff in 90 minutes. You're just not doing it all in 90 minutes. It takes a little while to jump out of a plane. It takes like a day to do that. But in the movie, it doesn't. It's hey, 30 seconds of doing this, and then you land, and then you're in the courtyard, and then you're at a romantic dinner. It's like there's a little bit of time transition that goes on here. So with that, there is the whatever the value is needs to be juiced with anticipation. What's going to happen next? So the car wreck, as soon as you're done the car wreck, driving by the car wreck, there is a physiological letdown, a relief that takes place, not because you're not in the car wreck. It's sort of like the excitement, the anticipation of, oh my gosh, I'm coming up to this. And it's very, very hard in media not to look away from whatever's being spoken on Newsmax, or whatever is being spoken on some of these other programs that are, well, it just doesn't even matter what the program, Rachel Maddow, or
they all do it.
They're all hooking.
Yep.
It's hooking. They're all hooking. Let's hook this, hook. Right before the commercial break, they got a hook. There is a hook sentence. When we come back, we will. And who knows what's going to happen on the other side. And they're trying to get the viewer to stay on the hook through anticipation to get to the other side. And the one that was worse, the worst one of these experiences was when Rachel Maddow brought out Trump's taxes the first time, the first old taxes.
Right.
Oh my God, that show was a train wreck, because there was nothing there, and all she could do is hook air. It was really troublesome. When you come back, we'll see this, and there was nothing there on the other side.
It was when she got into trying to have to really explain what about these taxes was so concerning. It's like, forget it. She lost it. Viewership went down. I mean, really, it didn't pay off. Well, and so, there's a really good example that we've seen recently, Bill, actually on Newsmax that we
Yeah.
have observed that I want to share with our audience, where this Newsmax was trying to, shine light on a car wreck, which then didn't really work out the way they wanted to. And so they turned it into like a 100 car pileup that they manufactured.
Right.
And then got not only a lot of eyeballs on their own network, but every other media outlet talking about this at the same time. And
Right.
It's a really good example of getting those eyeballs. And do you remember it? Do you remember what it was?
I do remember. It was the one with the veteran, right? Didn't the veteran
Yeah.
show up
So
and things like that? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
That
So
one.
it was an interview with a Afghanistan, U.S. Afghanistan war veteran.
Right.
And it was about the time that during the whole Afghanistan withdrawal that was going on, which is the car wreck to start, is
Right.
that Afghanistan withdrawal was very controversial.
Right. Right.
And so the Newsmax host is interviewing this veteran and trying to get the veteran to agree with the host. He's trying to get him to agree with him that the Biden administration could have done a whole lot better here. And that's putting it nicely, basically trying to make it look like the Biden administration is at fault for this thing going so poorly and being a train wreck. And the Iraq War veteran was actually interested in speaking truth and not just propagating a predetermined narrative.
Right.
And while he agreed that the Biden administration could have done some things differently, he also said, look, any of us veterans who have been there know what's been going on and how this has been handled. And what he did, he started to, I would say, very respectfully criticize Trump as well, not trying to let the anchor of the program put all the blame on the Biden administration, say, you know what, the Trump administration deserves a share of this too.
Right.
And
right.
the Newsmax host took serious offense to that and blew this up into, again, what I'm sort of equating with the 100-car pileup. And he went off and got angry and ranted and yelled at his producer to cut off the guest. You're not going to criticize Trump on my program. You're not going to impugn Trump. I mean, holy mackerel. The reaction was really out of proportion with the respectful discussion or comment and criticism that this Afghanistan war veteran was providing.
See that, and I think that's a part of it. It's like there's got to be somebody that is the EMT at the car wreck. There's got to be somebody that's the fireman there to give CPR. There's got to be a breath that takes place where there's some healing that goes on, at least for the veterans that are watching too. Because you cut off the veteran, you go like, here we go again. There's this person is even cutting us off, and we thought this person was a person, and then all of a sudden they're going like, well, why are they cutting my fellow veteran off? He was just saying XYZ, right? And they're listening and they're going like, well, I don't like how he's not respecting his guests, and he is not pursuing truth. Large media outlets do not need to be they're not tethered by truth anymore, because the consequence is so small. It's like a blip on things. It's very, very hard. It's we're okay with, as a nation now, we're okay with 700,000 deaths of fellow Americans, unless it's a attack on a building with a plane that only kills 370 something thousand. Now I'm just doing a numbers game with 9/11. Both things are bad, but the proportion of the outrage is really problematic. It's not, we're not in a state of thinking unity. We're just not. How do you unify against a virus?
Well, Bill, this is a great example. Don't you think the Twin Towers falling is the biggest car wreck event that people could see that shocked them, galvanized them, got them all on the same side of
Right.
this issue. Who's attacking us? We need to get to the bottom of this. But when you hear the number in the abstract, 700,000 people have died over the course of a year and a half or more now, you don't see it the same way, even though it's all over every news program and stories about hospitals being filled and stories of people that have died. It should be a car wreck. It should be the 100-car pileup times, 1,000. But
now we've got a real problem. If you think about it, just the way you just framed it, Tom, is that imagine you and I going down the freeway, and every mile we see another car wreck. Well, who wants to look at that? It's like every mile we're going to see another car wreck. I don't want to see a car wreck every mile. Eventually, there's a certain form of numbness that takes place. So if the number of people that have died, and it takes like 1,000 people a day. At one time it was really pretty consistent around 1,000 people a day. Now the US is around 700 people a day. But gosh, every 4 days there's another 9/11 death. Do you think that we would unify behind that? Unify, but it's something you can't see. It's not a visual that the media can play over and over again. And there's not a concerted effort, regrettably, there's not a concerted effort of, here's the way a virus works. Here's how to stop a virus. Here's what a virus does next. Here's what a virus does this. We got to do this. We got to collaborate and cooperate. There's not a collaborative, cooperative narrative. There's an outrage narrative on both sides. The outrage narrative is going like, look at that car wreck. Those other people are creating that car wreck. No, there's no car wreck. Don't look at the car wreck. There's no car wreck over there. That car wreck is made up. Nothing we can do to stop that car wreck. Wait a minute, there's a car wreck over here and you're responsible, you anti-vaxxer. Instead of going like, we're not looking at the car wreck. We're going to practice safe driving. Here's what we're doing. Here's the success stories. Here's the success stories. Here's what we're doing. Here's what happened. This is one city that has got in front of the virus. Here's one city that, here's an individual that got this. Here's what happened to this individual that got COVID, got crystals in her lungs, and they have scar tissue, and this is what happened. And she used to be an Olympic athlete, and she's having a hard time running now. Having a hard time breathing now. That is the kind of story that would be healthier for us to put forward as a collaborative, cooperative country, rather than ranting on different styles of news coverage. And it's hard to look away from the car wreck when the car wreck is what people are drawn to. If it bleeds, it leads. That's the thing that's the most important. So we have a bit to go, into being able to communicate past this and having a lot of empathy and compassion for an awareness for what the strategy that they're using, as well as going like, yeah, financial security is really important for those companies. And what are we going to pick as a people or a nation? How are we going to spend our money with this? So we really, really have a bit to go, because anger does sell. Rant becomes the story. It is easier to look at that. Distractions, deceptions, whatever the next lead is becomes the next car wreck that's going to be around the corner. Turn in at 5, turn in at 8, turn in at 7.
That's true. And for example, so that Newsmax story, which, they're an online outlet only, they're not really broadcast on traditional television channels. that whole rant over this issue and cutting off the veteran became controversial in and of itself, so much so that every other news outlet in existence pretty much
covered
had a story about the rant. And so that all that did was, well, it certainly put the name Newsmax on every other. I mean, I don't even remember the name of the veteran, but I remember that it was a Newsmax anchor. So, you know how they say no press is bad press, right? Well, I think Newsmax knows that, right?
You're going to see it's a fender bender. Oh, it's only a fender bender. Only a fender bender when we look by. Only a fender bender. Oh, there's an ambulance. Oh, look at that. Oh, they have the person on the gurney. I got to see that. Oh, I just watched the person look at, oh my gosh, they're working, giving them life support. I got to see the life support thing.
Or also, oh, there's flames. The car is on fire.
Fire. Look at that. Oh my gosh, there's a fire over there. Oh, better stay away from that. Okay. All right. It's like our human body is interested in life, and life is about emotions, and our emotions are about how do we turn them up and turn them on. There would not be an entertainment business without capturing eyeballs and creating drama that's not real on TV. And it's very difficult. I mean, Halloween is about creating the moment of fear in an unreal place, in an unreal way. Because, I mean, because I put up my Halloween costumes, decorations. So scaring people is a part of the emotional, jolt up, and hijacking the limbic brain is a part of that. And what we do is try to focus on reducing the emotion and creating the motivation that works in order to make a difference in the business world and in the political world, to get a message that's going to stick and be more inspirational rather than detrimental to the greater cause of collaboration and having a thing called the United States versus the divided states. And some people want to do the divided states, and that's not a strong narrative.
Even if it's profitable.
Even if it's profitable, it's not a strong narrative.
That's the scary honesty, is that the profit motives are not in alignment with a healthy discourse and a healthy nation.
Let's put borders on, let's put gates and checkpoints at every freeway, around the state of Texas to stop, the major freeways. Yeah, you got to stop. Everybody's got to stop and we got to check, because you're coming into Texas and we don't want any of your stuff in Texas. That's the mindset is not playing out the end game of the division.
Right.
It doesn't. It's a short-term solution, but it is not a long-term play. Just isn't. Anyway.
Well, we have a lot to work on in this country, don't we, Bill?
We do. And communication can get us there, especially talking about things, even though, Tom, you and I have an opinion, talking about things openly like this allow us to, bring points of view in and be able to keep a open narrative safe, and empathize with the people that do want to look at the car wreck, because they are looking to validate things like identity and belonging and acceptance, and they're looking to get focus in on their point of view, and it might not be yours, but that's what they're focusing on, their point of view.
Okay, Bill.
All right, Tom. Well, thanks for this today, and looking forward to, thanks everybody for listening, and look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth Podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.